I want to make sure I get as much covered as I can. One of the things that I need to say beforehand is this information is presented in this class is not intended to be and should not be construed as legal advice. I am not an attorney and not giving legal advice. Before applying this information to a specific legal problem, readers are urged to seek advice from their own legal counsel. What we will cover today is going to be license law, code of ethics, and fair housing, which we all are required to advertise through. So basically, you have to follow license law because you're a member of NAR, you have to follow the code of ethics, and there are some fair housing laws that apply to you as well. So we're going to go over advertising, social media, sharing and posting, video, virtual, and FaceTime, fair housing, ERA logos and colors, and examples. So first and foremost, realtors are using social media sites more than ever, and Facebook is 87% where people get their advertising from when it comes to social media. That was the new number that came out in December of last year. So you're necessary to be on social media. They are an effective tool, but there are legal and ethical requirements that you have to follow in order to be able to avoid your potential violations that you can receive. And there is some civil liability as well that you run into. The purpose of the class is to identify the provisions in both Ohio license law, the National Association's Code of Ethics, and apply the use of the social media, and also discuss other areas of risk in which you face when advertising in the medium. So Ohio license law defines advertising as any method or medium used as a real estate agent licensee to promote their services as a licensee or to make properties known to the public that are available for sale or lease. So under the definition, if you post an information about an available property on social media, or you use social media to promote your services as an agent or broker, it is considered advertising. This includes even general posts by an agent, such as interest rates are still low, it's a great time to buy. If a licensee advertises on social media, the same license law requirements that apply to traditional advertising also apply to social media posts. And these requirements apply not only to posts made by you on your business page, but also those made on a personal social media page or posted to private groups. Remember, guys, nothing is actually private. You may think it is, but it's not. So just remember that. So these are some examples of good wrong post and proper post. I have tried my best to block out anything because I don't want to embarrass anyone. But market news at the top. So this one right here that I'm looking at, the market news, this was a graphic that they posted. There is absolutely nothing there that identifies the broker or anything like that. That is why that is non-compliant. The one below it, just today alone, my team had 3 new buyers reach out to us locally. There are still more buyers than sellers. This is a great news if you, that is considered an advertisement. You are advertising services and there is no broker identification there. There's no agent identification there. There's no phone number. There's no title. Same thing over here is one that is correct. They have a market update. And when you post just a graphic, like if you were just going to post a graphic, you have to either have all the compliance on the graphic, or you need to create a post as this person did up here, because they have the graphic here, but then they posted this up here, which was a post. And then down here, they have their phone number, they have the group name, they have the brokerage name, they have the brokerage phone number, and they have a website. That makes that compliant because there's nothing on this graphic. As a recommendation to you, I always say, if there is a graphic that you upload, you really should be marking up that graphic. If it can be saved on a computer or downloaded, then you should be making sure that is accurately depicting the broker, your name, and a phone number. Because for one, why would you want anybody to be able to use your graphic to market for themselves? you want to brand it if it is pulled down. But it's just a way to kind of keep yourself compliant. If someone were to pull that down, you have then used the tools that you need to do to make sure it's compliant in the way that it's being presented. The Division of Real Estate and Professional Licensing has recognized that the format of certain social media sites may make it challenging to include the broker name. So for the reason, they did adopt a rule that uses the use of a direct link to display the broker name, but only in 2 situations. One, the advertisement is on a site that limits the information or characters a licensee can display. So Twitter has this. I believe Instagram has that. I don't know about TikTok. If anybody knows, you can comment in the chat. But you can create a link if you don't have enough room in the actual text character amount to actually put in all the information that you need. You can create a link that actually takes it to an agent or a website that will display the correct information in the broker. The second situation is if the advertisement is on website not owned or controlled by you or the brokerage, and that website terms of use limit the licensee to display the brokerage name. And that will also happen in the prominence rule as well. So for instance, if you have a broker site, sometimes there's different templates for the agent website. And if it will not allow you to create a logo or put the brokerage logo in or have it as a certain size, there is a rule that allows that because you don't control it. It's only the things that you can control. It should be noted that unless one of these 2 exceptions applies, the brokerage name is required to be displayed on the intranet or social media advertising. There is nothing in Facebook's terms of use that limits an agent from including the name of the brokerage on the agent's Facebook page or that limits the number of characters. I'm concentrating on Facebook because that is the most used medium for advertising. Therefore, the above exceptions would not be applicable, and the agent would be required to include the brokerage name on his Facebook page when engaging in advertising. So the easiest way to do that is naming your page John Doe at ABC Realty. That's the best way to start doing that and making sure that you are advertising appropriately in there, because anytime you make a post in there, it's going to at least always have the brokerage name. So posting content on social media or any advertising must include the following. This is per the Ohio Division of Real Estate and License Law and/or the NAR Code of Ethics. The name and/or logo of the brokerage in prominent size and font. The name, and this is whenever you see quotes, this was taken directly from either the Code of Ethics or from the license law. The name of the brokerage shall be displayed at least in equal prominence with the name of the salesperson in all advertising, including internet websites that are within the ownership or direct control of the licensee or the brokerage in which the licensee is affiliated. The name of the agent as recorded at the division. So if you have a name that is, Michael and Smith, and you want to go by Mike, you have to register that name, and you cannot advertise in as Mike Smith or anything else until you get that that other name approved. So if you are advertising, you must use the name, the legal name that is at the Division of Real Estate, or if you have asked for another name to be a shortened name to be approved and it's been approved, then you can use that. The name of the brokerage shall be displayed at least in equal prominence with the name of the salesperson. And a licensee may advertise in the first name other than the name of the licensee or advertise with the licensee's maiden name, provided that the preferred name or maiden name is not misleading and is registered with the division. So we just talked about that, but you have to make sure it's actually registered with the division. Position with the brokerage, i.e. agent realtor. This is an NAR Code of Standards Practice 12.6. Realtors, when advertising, and I just want to bring this up because it's always a pet peeve of mine, so I'm just going to say it here. It's called realtors. It's not realtors. So make sure you're saying it correctly when you're out there talking. But Standards of Practice 12-6 says realtors, when advertising unlisted real property for sale in which they have an ownership interest, shall disclose their status as both owners, landlords, and as realtors or real estate licensee. So if you're advertising something out there and it's unlisted in the MLS, you still are required to let people know what you do and who you are. Your equal housing logo. This is a big one that's missed all the time. This is a US HUD requirement. Authority for Title 8 or no, that's, yeah, 8. Civil Rights Act of 1968. So the direct language from that, from the HUD advertising policy, is the use of the equal housing opportunity logo type statement or slogan. All advertising of residential real estate for sale, rent, or financing should contain an equal housing opportunity logo type, statement, or slogan as a means of educating the home-seeking public that the property is available to all persons regarding race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. This is one that's missed a lot. People have a tendency just to put something out on social media and they'll put their logo on it and the brokerage logo, but they forget that equal housing, and it needs to be added to your posts. Accurate and updated information is a must. So information on the internet website maintained by you. So if you have your own website that you're doing, if it becomes outdated or expired, it is required to be updated within 14 days of the information becoming outdated or expired. So you can't just kind of let your own managed websites that have a pending that's closed stay pending forever. It's kind of the same process. The best rule of thumb is whenever the MLS requires that status be changed, you should be making sure it's changed on your own website. This would fall more in line with those that are managing it without an IDX feed, because if it's got an IDX feed, it'll kind of update with whatever the MLS is doing. So that kind of polices it a little bit for you. But some licensees have their own websites that they manage and they don't do the IDX feed. So that's going to apply more to you. You must disclose the date upon which the information contained was the most recently updated. And if a licensee website is maintained on the licensee's behalf by a third party, the licensee shall provide to the third party a timely written notice by mail, fax, or electronic means of any updates. So again, IDX feed, MLS kind of monitors this for you. And that's why you get fines and stuff from the MLS if you don't do it, because this is part of license law. So I know people get frustrated and they're like, well, you know, I don't want to do that, or why am I getting these fines? It's part of license law. So they are trying to manage that for you because of the IDX feed that's going through. So these are some incorrect postings. I just want to show you some, and feel free to jump in if you want or comment why you think they're inappropriate. The first one was done by an agent, and that is all they posted. There was absolutely nothing posted it was on Facebook. It was just a graphic. There was no language or a post that accompanied it. And I blocked out her website. She had her website, she had a name, that was it. There's no brokerage association, there's no equal housing, there's no part of her name as a realtor. She's supposed to identify herself as well as what she does. Nothing is there. Second one, this one had a listing coming soon. I blocked out as much as I could on this one, but this was all they had. They had their pictures that they uploaded, and there's no marking, of course, on the pictures that you can do, but what they're missing is identifying their brokerage and stuff in their actual post. So they should have had something at the bottom, and I'll show you the proper way to do it here in a minute. But there's nothing identifying this agent. And actually, this was done on a personal page. So the title of the post came from the agent itself. It didn't come from what we suggested before, the John Doe at our ERA ABC Realty or whatever. That was not there. And then this one, same thing, personal post, had this just listed home in Mount Orb, had a photograph that could have been downloaded, no broker identification, no identification of the agent, what they do. And that was all that was posted. Those are incorrect postings. Here's some more. This one was just listed this weekend. Person's name, no identification, their photo, nothing to do with the brokerage. It was a graphic that could have been downloaded, but there was absolutely nothing up in here that could have also identified that agent. That is incorrect. No equal housing logo, nothing. I see this all the time. These two I see a lot. addresses, just sold or just sold, and that's just a graphic. There is absolutely no post associated with it. There is nothing identifying the broker, nothing identifying the agent. Those are breaking license law. I'm going to use this because it's a Kentucky office. This is not for Kentucky. So I'm going to use this in case it was one that was there, because I don't handle Kentucky. So I just want to use this in case you do something like this. It was a great example. Our Kentucky office advertised that they were in there doing a lunch and learn. And then they said, if you need new windows, reach out. If you want to need to buy or sell, reach out. So I wanted to bring this up because this happens a lot. We will sit there and take photographs within our office, and then we want to shoot that out really quickly and post and say, hey, we're learning, you're advertising when you do this. And so if this was in Ohio and this was being done in Ohio, that graphic should have had something on there for ERA. So I always suggest keep your logos in a transparent background on your phone so that you can overlay them really quickly on your on your photographs that you want to share out. But at the bottom of this, it should have had, you know, brokerage, ERA Real Solutions, and the office to identify that was done, because they are considered advertisements when you are advertising for services or promoting your services. So again, this was not a violation for, I don't know if it was a violation for Kentucky, but it's not an Ohio office. So it was not something that, that it mattered for us, but for Ohio, but for the NAR and HUD, there should have been a HUD statement or a HUD logo on that photograph as well. So those are two graphics that would be really ideal for you to keep in your phone, so you can overlay those graphics that are needed and at least put the brokerage and the fair housing logo on them when you're going to promote outside for your office. And it's a really the most obvious or the most violation that we see is people promoting out really quickly. These are correct postings, so I wanted to bring these up. So you can see where the logo is here, the agent name, their contact information. They have realtor here. They have the equal housing. They have everything. This was a graphic. It didn't need any post with it because everything was on here. Here's another one that was done by Martin Associates. He did everything as well here and posted it here. Here's one that was done that is correct. It had it on the business page, had everything about it. And then it had any questions, had a phone number, and it had their name with, and it had the brokerage name. So even though they're sharing the pictures, they still identified everything in the post to let them know that that was who they were with. Donald Fender, here's one that they did. They had a graphic here. They have their equal housing. They have their identification. They have what they do. And then they also, this is a really good key right here. Amy does a really good job at listing provided by Amy Davis, ERA. You know, she puts her name and who she's with. So this is a really good thing that you should get in the habit when you are, I always say, whether you're doing a link or not, if you can just get in the habit of who the listing is provided by, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. So Article 12 of the Code of Ethics says to be honest and truthful in their real estate communications and shall present a true picture in their advertising, marketing, and other representations. Realtors shall ensure that their status as a real estate professional is readily apparent in their advertising, marketing, and other representations, and that the recipients of all real estate communications are or have been notified that these communications are from a real estate professional. This was just amended in January of 2008. So what I would say to that is, a lot of people say to me, why do I have to put a real estate sales person on there or a realtor on there? It's because it's part of the Code of Ethics. It has nothing to do with the license law. License law has to do with the logo and identification there, but the Code of Ethics tells you that you have to do that. So as a member of NAR, you need to be identifying who you are and what you do behind your name. So it's really important if you want to use a real estate agent, if you want to use a salesperson, a licensed salesperson, if you want to use realtors, that you can do any of that, but you need to be identifying yourself because Article 12 tells you need to. That's missed a lot too. So the prominence rule, we're going to talk about a little bit. We've already talked about how it needs to be an equal prominence with the name of the salesperson, all forms of advertising, including your social media. So for ERA, I'm just going to show you right here. For ERA, the ERA housing, the little top of the peak here, all the way down here, that is what you need to be measuring. A lot of people think, well, I'm just going to do Real Solutions here. No, that's not it, because ERA is the actual brokerage. So all the way from the tip of the top to the bottom here, that's how they're going to measure that prominence. So this is your guide to measuring if you are in compliance with that, based on if you are smaller or equal size to this right here. Okay. Agent's name cannot be more prominent than the brokerage. When evaluating the prominence of a name, the font size and style, as well as the placement of the names and ads, must be considered by the Ohio Division of Real Estate. It should be noted that because a franchise name is not part of the brokerage license name, it is not factored. So I just talked about that. So we have to make sure that we're using the CRA. The license law does provide for one exception to the equal prominence rule, and that is the ad is on a website that is not owned or controlled by the licensee or his brokerage. And, not or, the terms of use or format of the website or other advertising medium does not allow for the licensee to control the size or prominence of the brokerage and salesperson's name. So sometimes, and I even think that Moxie does this too, you can, depending on the template, your name could be a lot larger than the logo that's up in the corner, and that's what they're talking about. So if you don't control it and the brokerage doesn't control those templates, and they're just ones that Moxie controls, that is the reason that you're able to do it. Thus, if an agent is engaging in advertising that doesn't allow that, then they're not going to be held accountable for it. But again, naming if you're doing it on Facebook, naming the brokerage within your business page name is a really good way to kind of stay compliant with the prominence rule. Team advertising. I'm going to touch a little bit on teams. We don't have a lot of teams, but they are defined under Ohio license law as any group of 2 or more associated real estate licensees affiliated with the same brokerage and or non-licensed professionals such as administrative assistants and other professionals specializing in real estate related fields that advertise together. Now, Ohio license law does allow licensees to advertise on a team if certain requirements are met, and these requirements apply to all forms of advertising, including social media, under the team advertising rule. So a team or group must, number 1, include in the advertisement the full name of at least one licensee that is a team member, and the requirement is met if the full license name of the team member is included in the name. So as, for instance, the Mary Smith team. I will use John, for example. He has the DeCurtains team, and he has to still identify himself because it's not the John DeCurtains team. All right. Included in the brokerage name, identify as non-licensed any unlicensed team member whose name is included in the ad. Display the name of the brokerage in equal prominence with the name of the team, and display the name of the brokerage in equal prominence with the name of any salesperson in the advertisement. Therefore, if a team has a Facebook page or other social media presence, it cannot solely use the team name. It must also include the name of at least one licensed affiliate with the name, with the team and the brokerage name, and follow the other requirements as set that we talked about before. With respect to posting photos of your team on social media, this can be done without disclosing all of the team members by name, but only if all of the above requirements are met. So if you have a team, you need to go and read the revised code for team advertising so that you can make sure that you're abiding by that. If you have a team and you have another person that's working as your transaction coordinator, there are some exceptions to whether you have to include them or not, because if they're not advertising together as a team and they're not jointly doing something and they're just doing the stuff behind the scenes, that's not really identified in my opinion as a team, unless they're actually advertising together as a team. So these are some accurate posts. This one over here by John. He wrote, listed by John DeCurtains and Emily good and with ERA Real Solutions, and they have their phone number. So this, again, he was sharing photographs of a listing, and he identified, even though he has the DeCurtains team as his page name, he still went ahead and listed by John DeCurtains and he and who he was with, which allows him to do that. The only thing that I would recommend here is it, and again, I don't know that this is necessarily violating the code of ethics because he's on a real estate post and it's identified as a real estate team here by the name. I think that's kind of a question that would have to be answered by an attorney, but listed by John DeCurtains, and I would probably put realtor behind that. If just to 100%, Ron and I both have this whole idea of we should, what if, and let's button it up. So that's kind of like my thought process there is go ahead and list and identify yourself. This one is not correct. The reason it's not correct is they have this image again, and they have it as a team, but they have absolutely nothing else on here. There's no identifying mark of who this is. There is no agent here. They have, if they're going to advertise as a team, again, they must have at least one licensee in this advertisement, and that is not done on this post. Advertising property listed with another brokerage. This you see a lot. People will put something out and then you'll go in and post it. There are rules with how you can do that. First of all, get permission from the other agent, but there are rules on how you post it. So a common advertising violation occurs when you post information on social media about a property that's on the market, but it's listed with another brokerage. For example, Agent Mary sees the listing that Agent Bob, who is licensed with another brokerage, he has a post on his Facebook page about one of his listings. To attract potential buyers for this property, she reposts it on her Facebook page stating, "New on market, call me today for a showing." Bob files a complaint alleging that the agent did not have the authority to advertise the property and that the post misleads the public to believe she is a listing agent. In this case, he may very well have some merit on that because one, you have to have permission to do that. And it's the listing agent's job to get permission from the seller to let you do it. But you can't just share things without permission. And it's, a lot of people will post in the thread, "Hey, can I share this?" And then the agent will say yes, screenshot it. Because if they take that post down for some reason, maybe they didn't get the seller's permission, the seller sees it, they don't like it, whatever the case may be, and you don't have proof that you had permission to share that, you can be in violation of that. So make sure that you screenshot stuff like that if that's how you're going to get your permission, because it can also be taken down. My recommendation always is to send a text message or to send an email and ask permission to do that so that you have something that you're controlling, whether or not if it's taken down, you control the chain of permission. Ohio license law sets forth requirements that a licensee must meet to advertise property that is either listed with another brokerage or that is being offered for sale by owner. These requirements apply to any form of marketing, including social media marketing. So the licensee must first obtain a written permission of the owner's authorized agent, so the listing agent or broker, or in the case of a FSBO, a written consent of the owner. And I always like to point this out, when you're reading license law, you need to make sure if it says and or. It is a huge thing that people will miss, and then they don't follow the rules because they're thinking it's an or. So, and if the written consent is obtained from the listing agent or broker to the listing broker's name must be included in the ad at least the same size and font that it's used to describe the property. So in the scenario on the previous slide, the agent who posted the information on her Facebook page about the other brokerage listing needed to first obtain the written permission from the agent or the brokerage. And if written consent was not given, the post violated license law. If the agent gave consent, then the post is required to include the listing broker's name in a font equal to that is used to describe the property. So again, Facebook, it's all kind of the same size. So as long as you're doing that. And on a FSBO property, the licensee is not permitted to advertise such property on social media or elsewhere without the owner's written consent. And if it is consent is given, then the property for sale can be advertised and considered misleading by the Ohio Division of Real Estate if you if you don't make it appear as the property is listing for sale, and you act like it's listed for you, because you need to make sure it's listed for sale by owner. Again, it goes back to Article 12, when you're making sure that you're being open and honest and transparent. That's the biggest word that to come out of this, is the transparency, not making it look like it's something else. So these are incorrect. These were shared photos. So call me today to see this gorgeous listing. This was a shared, there was a couple violations here. There was a phone number, but the agent themselves that was sharing it didn't identify themselves or their brokerage, and they didn't identify the listing agent's information as well. So that would be a violation. The other one, Clark Coming Soon, just listed. You can see ad by has their name. This is out of state, so I didn't hide this stuff, but ad by Wendy Potter, realtor, phone number, who she's with, and then at the bottom, it has her disclosure. And then at the bottom, listed by, and then their name. That's an appropriate way to do and advertise someone else's property. Same thing with Eric Wright. He had his information, then he had, what he did, who he's with. And I love this. I do this also on printed material. If you're going to do something like an e-card or something, I always had it as part of the graphic, which says advertise with permission and listed by Lindsay and Kenneth at eXp Realty. One of the things that I love about that is that you are already shown, because there's people out there watching you guys and they're sending things to this division of real estate all the time. So what I would tell you is, if you make that part of your graphic, you've already shown and already stated that you had permission to use it. And so it kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So if you do have permission, it's a good way to advertise and make sure that you have that part in your post.
Kristen, on that last page, Marshall just in chat said, shouldn't the HUD logo be on these also? So
yeah, well, they should be, but these were pictures that were shared. So these were shared images. This wasn't something they created. They shared them. So they don't control what the other agent did. So these were posts that were done like on an MLS, and they just shared it from the other agent. So there's no way for them to alter the images because they were a shared Facebook post. But if these were ones that were created by the agent, then yes.
Perfect.
So we're going to talk a little bit also about defamation and negative social media posts. While social media is very useful, it is also a place that people are making negative comments regarding other realtors and professionals and their business practices. And these posts and tweets expose realtors to potential defamation claims for libel. And in addition, the NAR code also gets a violation. So let's address posts about other realtors and other professionals. Article 15 of the Code of Ethics provides that realtors shall not knowingly or recklessly make false or misleading statements about other real estate professionals, their businesses, or business practices. Standards of Practice 5-2 clarifies that this article is also violated when a realtor knowingly or recklessly publishes, repeats, retransmits, or republishes false or misleading information. And I'm going to throw this in here because Ann Pennant said it to me one time, and it just kind of has always stuck. Whether it's done in person or in writing, but also whether or not you know it's misleading. So if you're going to share something and it has first of all, don't share anything that's negative. Don't share anything that has anything to do about someone's practices. Don't comment on those posts is my recommendation, because those comments get you in trouble. We have seen that at the Division of Real Estate. And I will tell you, if you have the time, they publish all their cases. It would be a really good thing if you can't sleep to go read those cases. That's how I learn a lot, because some of the things that I think, oh, well, that would be all right, I get on there and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that wouldn't have been. So you need to make sure that you are not repeating or commenting on those threads, because it can get you in trouble and you could be held liable for that. So let's talk a little bit about false and misleading quotes and retweeting or recommenting. And I want to bring up again that private pages are not private. We've seen that in the stuff going on with Perchwell. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten screenshots from agents outside, inside ERA that says, hey, is this okay? Once that screenshot's taken, that's proof. Once that screenshot happens, it doesn't matter if it's taken down later, it was posted and it can be used against an agent. So never think that you are in a private group and therefore it's never going to be used against you. That is not an area I want to get into. But if you share or retweet a comment made by someone else about another real estate professional, you can be in violation of Article 5 if it was done with knowledge that the statements were false or misleading, or were made in a reckless manner, meaning they were made with disregard to whether the statements were true or not. So like I just said, whether or not you know it's misleading and you go ahead and do it, you could still be, if it ends up being not true, you can be in trouble for posting something that's defamatory and libel. And if it is true, you can be in trouble for talking about your fellow professional. So in certain instances, Ohio license law may be violated by false posts involving other real estate licensees, and the law prohibits a licensee from making any knowing misrepresentations or publishing on any kind of social media post that is false. So, for example, a tweet by a licensee falsely claiming that another real estate licensee has had their license suspended should be considered a violation of license law if the licensee who made the statement knew or should have known that it was false. Realtors who make false statements about other real estate professionals or their practices on social media could also be subject to a civil claim for defamation. So it can go outside of license law, and you can be held civilly liable for it. So false means made with some degree of malice and resulted in injury to another person's reputation or damage their business. And those claims for damage would be a civil matter handled through the court system. It is unprofessional to make the industry look bad to the public. So one of the biggest complaints about social media involves realtors using it as a platform to vent about their fellow realtors. I see this almost on a daily basis, especially in the private group. This can involve complaints about what they believe to be another realtor's unprofessionalism, not returning calls or responding to emails, or can go further, which is accusing them of unethical conduct or a violation of license law. Often in response to other realtors respond with additional accusations or negatives. So that's that thread of conversation that starts happening. And while it may feel really good to get your vent out and talk about the bad experiences, you are showing a negative, reflecting negatively on your entire industry as well as in the eyes of the public. And I will tell you, things that go on in those private groups get screenshotted and sent to clients because I've gotten them. I've gotten them from the community, from that page where an agent was sent something to a consumer, and then I received a copy of that. So again, it's not private. You need to be really careful about what you're engaging in. You need to also think about how posting something like that, it also affects and reflects on your own professionalism. It doesn't make you look any better. And your clients are going to look at that and say, hey, if you're going to do that about them, what will they say about things that I may have be going on in my home when they are representing me? So just think about that. Here's a couple of them. This is why I always use professional photography. Home sellers deserve better than this. This is a real life pic in the MLS right now and on a home for sales. This was actually posted to someone's Facebook page. This wasn't even in a private group.
I can't help but laugh. Oh
I know.
goodness.
Well, that's the first for me in 20 years, being able to look across the road and down the hill onto the roof of $1 million house adds value to the house. So she's basically sharing her, and this was somebody local. This was somebody that you all would probably know if I said their name. They weren't ERA, but because if it was, I'd probably call you. But this is actually her sharing on her Facebook page, not a private group, her text message with another real estate agent. The thing I don't like about this is, what if the seller saw this? You know, we're always within 6 degrees of people, right? Is that what they say? We're within 6 degrees of So you just don't know. So here is a couple things. If you think you are being defamed, or you think somebody has said something about you there, here are 4 things you should do. Keep a list of the URL links to any defamatory remarks to your business. Take screenshots, because if they are taken down later, the damage that has been done, you need to be able to prove that. Keep a record of your sales before and after the statement to show that it impacted your business or you financially, and record the instances of the feedback received from those who have read the offending messages. So those are 4 things that you can do if you feel that you have been defamed, or you start seeing someone come after you that that you feel has affected your business. These are the things that you can do to try to be able to do that, and file a complaint with the Division of Real Estate, file a complaint with your local board. Make sure you're talking to your broker or manager about that so they can assist you in the proper way to go about that if you feel that that's happening. I didn't see this question over here. You gonna keep track of these questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll make sure we answer any
Okay.
questions at the end, so.
Okay, cool. Post about the seller's properties, things we see in real estate. There's like pages on Facebook that is set up for this stuff. It's kind of like the people you see in Walmart. They have the same thing for real estate. And nasty post about the seller's property can land you in hot water with the Ohio Real Estate Commission. Another area of exposure involves a real estate or a realtor who will make derogatory comments and even post pictures or video on social media regarding the properties that are on the market. Usually these posts involve unflattering comments about the condition of the property, the owner's decorating style, the features of the property, and they all have resulted, when they have gone to the Division of Real Estate, they have all resulted in disciplinary action against the agent, even in instances where the address of the property was not included in the post, or they were made in a closed Facebook group. These posts became public, and it wasn't difficult for the property owner to recognize their own property. So again, didn't matter that these cases came before the commission and that there was no address, and that all of, they were in a closed group. It got out, and they were always held and had disciplinary action. Here are some examples of those. Cool things you see in homes. This had the cool wood detail and features bathrooms, shiplap barns, and they were making, comments about the good things about the home. The issue with this property is they were actually talking positively about it, but they didn't have permission to show the house from the listing agent. They were inside the home taking photographs without the seller's permission. That's why that one came before the commission, because the seller didn't give permission for photographs to be taken by the person that was showing the home. You have to have permission. You can't go in, you can't take your buyer in, and they can't be taking photographs. So that's the reason for that one. Here's one. Have you ever seen a toilet that actually works sitting in the middle of an unfinished basement? These are things you see when showing properties that TV needs to be in a museum. What are some crazy things you've seen in properties? So they show pictures of it, and it just upsets the seller. I want to ask, but I don't want to ask. And then can't make this crap up. The apartment with the hoarding, the apartment with all the hoarding and needles. They wrote a wedding proposal on the garage door. All we can do is laugh at this one, but hey, she said yes. That was listed by a real estate agent. So there's a lot of violations with that one. So what can you sometimes have costly legal and ethical consequences? So before posting something negative about another realtor, business practices, or issues or house you've shown, just remember you're creating a written record that never goes away. And for this reason, think long and hard about what you write to avoid placing yourself at risk in violation. You could get sued over your post. It has happened. Besides filing an ethics complaint with the brokerage, realtor was subject to your social media post could sue you for defamation. And if they can show in the statements that were false and they kept those 4 items that I suggested, you could be held liable. Let's talk a little bit about fair housing and some of the hate speech that you need to be careful we're getting. And one of the reasons I wanted to include this today is because we are getting into a political year. And so we need to be really, really careful what we're posting on our pages. Realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, slurs, anything that has to do with race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familiar status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. A realtor use of hate speech is prohibited under the Standards of Practice 10.5, and it could be a violation of Article 10, even if the subject matter or content does not involve real estate. So hate speech and fair housing has nothing to do with your real estate. It has to do with violation of the Article 10, and going on and talking in that way is a violation to fair housing. Both the Standards of Practice 10 and 5 and the amendments to Policy 29 became effective on November 13th, 2020, which is the date they adopted by the Board of Directors. Although the Standards of Practice in 10.5 is not limited to speech engaged only on social media, it is probably the medium that is used most times for harassing speech. So First Amendment provides that neither the United States Congress nor any state may abridge the freedom of speech of American citizens. This does not apply, as the NAR is a private association and is supported by dues from members. So you can't claim that as a realtor that you have freedom of speech when you are a member of the NAR and you pay dues. It is a private organization. So another misbelief is that Standards of Practice regulates all speech, including political speech. That's not true. Instead, for a violation of Article 10 to be found, the following two elements both must be proven. One, the speech must be found to involve harassing speech, hate speech, or I don't even know what that word is, or slurs, and the speech must be based on one of the protected classes under the NAR Code of Ethics. They have included gender identity here, so you guys need to make sure you're paying attention to that. That was added. So unauthorized use of photos and videos. This is another big one. The use of videos on social media can pose a problem when the realtor posting the image does not own the photo or video or does not have consent to post them. So copyright laws are designed to protect creative work, including photos and videos. To publish or use a photo or video, a realtor must either have ownership rights to the image, the realtor took the photo or video themselves, or the realtor must have the consent of the owner and image to use it. So in many cases, the owner of the copyrighted photograph is a professional photographer or videographer who grants a license to another person to use their work. There's been some conversation because the MLS here in Cincinnati has started putting an overlay of MLS logo on the photographs. And there's this whole uproar on these private groups about they don't have permission to do that. Yes, they do. So I'm just going to say right there, yes, they do. When you post something and put it, when you are getting a photograph from a photographer, they may own it if they don't release the license to you, but they are giving it to you for the listing of the duration of that listing. And when you upload that to the MLS, you are granting them access and permission to use as well. And the reason they're overlaying that is because there are so many people violating, taking the pictures from MLS and trying to use them in marketing pieces. When you upload them, you are giving them permission. So the whole thing that flew up last week about they don't have permission to do that, they do have permission to do that. A private group paying fees, read your fine print. Agents disciplined for taking pictures without consent happens all the time. You're showing a property, buyer pulls out their phone, start taking pictures or videos of the property, and they did not get permission to do that. You're not permitted to do that. You have to get permission from the listing agent to be able to do that. That does not apply for a private FaceTime if you have to show the property that way, but to button it up, I would probably tell the agent that's what you're going to be doing and let them know that that's what your plan is, so that if they're watching a camera, they're not thinking you're videoing their property. But again, always keeping it transparent and letting them know what you're doing. Sellers care because such photography was not authorized by them, and they may be misused by others. They also may be taking pictures of the they could be having their kids in the background. There could be names of the kids in the background. So you just need to be really careful. Most recent newsletter issued by the Ohio Division of Real Estate, 2 different agents were disciplined by the commission. One agent was fined $2,000 and ordered to take an additional 9 hours of continuing ed for posting an unauthorized photo on his private Facebook page. The second agent agreed to a $300 fine and 6 hours of continuing education for posting a video on YouTube without the seller's consent. In both of these cases, the licensees were found by the commission to have engaged in misconduct as it appropriates to Article 1 of the Code of Ethics, which provides in part the licensee should endeavor to maintain and establish as high standards of professionalism, conduct, and integrity in dealing with members of the public as well as fellow licensees, and further seek to avoid appearance of impropriety in any activities as a licensee. So again, permission from the seller through the listing agent is required before you can do that. Copyright infringement, going to kind of skip through this. I know we're getting kind of low, but again, if you don't have permission to use photographs, don't use them. Fair housing issues. We talked already a little bit about this, but I go a little bit more in depth with it. Addition to price fixing, the antitrust laws also prohibits group boycotts. A group boycott exists when 2 or more competing discuss or agree on how they will treat a competitor. I've seen this a little bit on some private Facebook pages. It usually talks about the flat fee brokerages and all that. Just stay away from those conversations. Don't get in it. Don't talk about it. Don't post it. Even if you go as far as saying, did you see that this, I had an agent that was going to offer 3% and then I get in there and they offered 2.5 that got changed. That's you're on that line of where you shouldn't even be talking about it. So just don't go there. Because I've actually seen on some of these pages where they're like, don't use this agent because of this. That can kind of go into this boycotting thing where they're talking about another agent, suggesting and encouraging other agents to use different people and not use other people. So those are areas that you want to stay away from. Here's some examples that put you in, and these are actual true statements. I am so sick of these brokers that aren't splitting commissions 50-50. You all know who I mean. You need to do something about this. I don't know about you, but I am done showing their listings. Whatever you do, don't work with ABC builders. They don't pay the standard referral fee like all other builders in the area. Are you having the same problems I am with John Doe Appraiser? If so, do what I'm doing. I'm calling lenders that use him and pressuring them not to assign him any more of their deals. These were actually taken from Facebook posts. So when other realtors take action against in such a post or indicate their agreement to such post by commenting favorably on the post, liking it also matters. You can press that little like button, see who all liked it. If somebody screenshots that and your name is in there, guess what you've just done? You've just created a record of you actually engaging in that conversation. And you can be held liable for it. So it's considered evidence and participation in that conversation. Now I know what you're thinking. Of course, I won't discriminate against anyone for color of their skin or their gender or religion. So any decent and ethical human realizes that being compliant to fair housing is common. But if you decide to describe a smaller home as perfect for empty nesters, that would imply catering to a specific familiar status, which is also a fair housing no-no. Same concept applies to Facebook ads and selecting demographics that narrow your pipeline. So if you can go in there and you start using Facebook ads and sorting and who you're going to advertise to, and it violates a protected class, that search and that filtering and what you go and do for that, if it violates that, you can actually be held liable for discrimination if they can prove that you actually filtered out certain protected classes. So be very, very careful. It is a very hard thing to prove, but it can be. So just be really careful and understand it even applies to that. Here are some examples that I pulled from Facebook myself of violation of fair housing. Comments that were made by real estate agents. or memes that were posted. A lot of people think these memes are so funny and they post them, and there is a violation. I'm just going to scroll through. I think there's 3 slides that show that. 2 slides. So what these are answered by the Ohio Division of Real Estate. I'm just going to leave these on here. I'm going to let you, I want to have time for questions. So I'm just going to kind of leave them on here so that you can read them and pause it when you get it back. So there's a couple of questions here. What can you say in an advertisement? Websites in compliance with Ohio law. So it was question answers that was done by the Ohio Division of Real Estate. So I'm just going to kind of leave them up there for a minute, and then you can go back and look at it at the recording. Is it okay for my buyer to video a property? Do I have to make room for Fido? So talk about use of requirements of Realtor. Realtor is a requirement. If you're going to use it correctly, these are the correct. I'm going to leave this up here, but the biggest violation is if you can write Realtor in all caps with an R sign, that is the 100% best way to do it. It is not all lowercase. It is a trademark owned by NAR, and it is protected by federal law. So if you are using Realtor and you have the ability to capitalize the entire word and put the register sign behind it, which you should, because now your little emojis have a register sign in your phones. That was added to Apple and Android, so you can do that. You should be posting that correctly. It should be all caps with the registered trademark behind it. You can get away with just doing Realtor if it doesn't allow for those things, but that is the appropriate way that you should be doing because it is a trademarked usage term. That just talks about it in more detail, so I'll leave it up there again. Here are the places and how you should be looking at their relief fund and their foundation. These are the logos, and the commercial logo is red, MLS logo, and Realtor Party if you're using of that. So if you're making anything, an advertisement, this is how you should be utilizing this logo, and just wanted to kind of pull those up. So my final thing is my share. We are required to keep a copy of everything, as you know, for 3 years. And this little app is phenomenal because texting matters and graphics are in your texting. So this is my share. It's a free download and you only pay for the backup, and it's not that expensive. I think my biggest file, my biggest transaction that I ever did for texting was I think like $7, and it was nice. I'm gonna show you how it uses, but it's called Legal Text Collector. And this is a great app for you to use when you are trying to back up your text messages instead of archiving them on your phone and then you get another phone and all those archives are gone. This is a great app to use for this instead. So you can, there's no collections here. This is your, let me make sure I didn't skip something here at this thing's, yeah. So there's no collections. I would go in and hit collect messages. I would start the date. So the date that I started texting these people, the ending date. And then I put that there, and then I press collect messages, and then it'll tell me how many messages I have with that person, or that, yeah, that person over there. And then it would say, do you consider reporting anonymous? I always say no. And then it will give me the summary of all of these, and I can hit next and make sure that those are the ones I want. And then it will show me all of them in a PDF format. And then I can share that, and I will share that to my email. And then I will be able to file that. So this is a great app. And I think it lets you go and say who you want these for. So this was what downloaded on my computer, was all of the text messages from this person, because it lets you select the phone number when you go through this. And then it gives you a complete breakout. And if there are photographs, you'd see the photographs in here as well. All right. That was a very condensed version.
And it was still a whole bunch.
It was still a whole bunch. Yes.
Good stuff though. So let's get to it's either Karen and or Rhonda. Just asking about just sold posts. you know, if they're not the listing agent, do we need permission from the listing agent to post that, even though I was always acknowledged the listing agent and brokerage in the post? So
Yeah. So you can, okay, so on the just sold post, first of all, as long as you are not posting the photograph prior to closing and all parties signing it, and you take your own photo, you can do that, but you still have to give access or give knowledge to the listing agent. So anytime that you are doing that, because after they close it, they are no longer representing that seller, or that the buyer now is doing that, but you're talking, legally, you wouldn't have to, if it's after the closing, you would not have to identify that agent at that point, because as long as you're taking your own picture. But if you're doing it beforehand, you'd have to have permission and all of that, and identify who the listing agent was for that. You have to take your own photograph. To button it up, that's my favorite word. I would always give accolades to who listed it, just to be safe.
yeah, or certainly don't, I guess, don't, you know, don't imply that that you listed it and sold it,
Correct.
you know, like certainly
It all
don't,
it
you
all
know.
goes back to that transparency part of the article, right? If you're to be transparent in everything. So, and make sure that if you are using a photograph from the other agent, that you have in writing that you have permission to do that. But that little thing at the very bottom, it doesn't even have to be even that big, but just that little thing at the bottom that says, used with permission, by the listing agent, and give them accolades on that. That's the best that's the best practice that you should get into.
Perfect. I'll just say real quick, I say this during every one of our sessions. Obviously this, this was a lot, we talked about a lot. It is recorded, but you have access to us all the time. So this was not a one-time deal. You're on your own, bring it to your attention, get your mind going. If you have any questions about the next time that you're ready to post something or anything, do not hesitate to reach out to us, and, Kristen and your office manager, whoever, to get the ball rolling, just to make sure that you're, completely, doing it correctly and staying compliant. So,
yeah. A lot of people shoot me a text message with a picture on it and said, "Hey, is there anything missing on this?" Because I can look at it. Ron could look at it. Jeremy could look at it. We could all look at it real quick and just tell you, "Yep, you need to add this, or you need to, do this." That would be the best way to go about it. If you have any question, just get that last little bit of, yes or no, so that you're not in trouble for it, because they are coming down on it. The Division of Real Estate is starting to look at even having a department that looks at just social media. So I think it's really important that you start paying a little bit of attention to it, because they are coming down on it hard, and there are agents that are posting and screenshotting things all the time and sending in complaints.
yeah, I think that's what we have to realize, is there's always someone out there just looking to to get someone, in trouble, or tattletale or whatever, which it is what it is. But so let's just us not be in that category. So
Right.
awesome. Yeah. So any other questions before we wrap this up? Total side note, you can type something about political and on your personal page, and you don't have to put that you're a realtor, but my goodness, just be smart be smart all the time about what you post. Just know that unless you do not want to sell real estate, list real estate with someone on the other side of your post, if you just refuse to, I guess, go ahead. But, just know that there's someone on the other side of something you post that will likely see it or could see it, in the potential of you losing buyers and listers and things like that. So just be smart. We're professionals. We need to not only be compliant when we're talking about real estate, but certainly need to be smart and ethical in things, just when we're posting anything we do. So
yeah. And anything that is political where you get in trouble, as an agent is when you start violating the fair housing or discriminating against people in those political posts. That's where you can get in trouble. So just be really cautious about that.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Kristen. That was great. We do have another one coming up in March. I'll make sure you guys get it, but we have another compliance coming up in March. I think it's working with,
Risk out of real estate.
yeah, working
The
with,
do's and don'ts
actually
with
working with
representatives.
clients and
Yeah.
things. So, so there'll be another one in March, and then we're going to continue these through the year. So we're going to, Kristen's got a ton of knowledge in topics. So, you know, there'll be probably one a month, one every 6 weeks as we go through the year. So just continue to, you know, kind of watch the notices and things. But otherwise, thank you so much, Kristen. And it will be recorded. I will post it probably later today, tomorrow at the latest, just in case anyone wants to watch it again or if anyone missed it. So otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining and have a great rest of the day.